one. Blam! All right, so our current subject matter. By the way, we're on episode 43. No, 44. We're on 44. No, it's 44. Um, so yeah, episode 44, and our let's see, burp burp burp. Our first topic is gonna be we're gonna talk a little bit about the NFTs, kind of as a starter, and then we could talk about our bigger subject would be just the death mechanic in video games. Boom boom boom. Death in video games is a lot like death in real life. It is the one thing that gives meaning to the game of life. Oh, how poetic. Oh, oh, jeez. Oh my goodness. Uh, so dark. If
Just
death.
bring just bringing out my inner goth, you know.
Let's see. The failure state is the most common element in a video game, and the most common failure state is death. With the launch of the game Death Loop, it's got me thinking of what are some of the
Your
favorite
favorite games in
examples.
which, yeah,
Right,
in which
which
death is contextualized in the narrative of a game.
right, yeah. Sorry, I'm like reading over it. Yeah.
That's a
What are some of the examples which it didn't work? Bam, 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 bam. Okay. Let's start with NFTs. Does anybody know anything about NFTs so far?
I just know that it's a way for me to finally sell my soul.
finally, finally sell the soul. It's so everybody knows the concept of like cryptocurrency, right? Like, uh,
Yes.
Hmm.
in case anybody doesn't know, so
Yeah, let's.
cryptocurrency, it's like it's based on um, a a very specific kind of code, a little bit of it's encrypted. It's very specific to each cryptocurrency being owned is specific to the person that owns it. Um, I'm not completely sure like of the exact science behind it, but I do know it takes a lot of effort to even just mine them or data mine them.
From what I understand, it does have something to do with calculating prime numbers. You know, those numbers that you can only divide by itself and number one. And it takes a lot of computing power to actually get to them because there isn't really like one simple formula that you can apply for the entire set. You have to like literally calculate, almost like one by one until you get to them, which is what makes like every single token a little bit unique to itself because there's no way that you're going to arrive to that number except by calculating it from the get-go. So once you have the number, you know that that number is a prime number, which is
Uh, okay.
which is
Huh.
why you get higher and higher. Once you get higher and higher in the list, it's just really hard to actually get there because you need more and more computing power to keep computing more and more prime numbers.
Okay. Right. I also heard that like like to be able to mine the cryptocurrency or and whatnot, like a lot of like people have been buying GPUs just to get them processed, and then it costs a lot of energy to even do in the first place. Some people are saying also that it's very it is not friendly to the environment. It's like a lot of was it fossil fuel apparently, but I'm not
A lot of energy
completely
being consumed for it.
Yeah,
right just to mine the cryptocurrency
just
and
imagine we found a
I guess
way
it's
to make money even less environmentally friendly.
right. um
Captain Planet would have a field day.
and there's and what's that I heard I was like reading that it has to do with like the NFTs are created from a blockchain. Not completely sure of like how that works, but honestly, like if we just go to the cryptocurrent, like the NFT part, just to that part, The simplest way to put it, it's like having the digital signature of the specific digital product that has the unique crypto kind of like currency or crypto or whatever encryption code onto it that
Right.
makes it
It's basically
individual.
a digital certificate, saying this is its unique thing, and this is the code that says this is, the unique thing.
Right, right. And then like the in the words being used in like say the art community is that they are doing it where they can it is a little bit has to do with like the art community in the sense of like the auctioning artwork and how digital um, really doesn't work in the art space. So when you do any paintings and stuff like that, like you can't sell that because how it's capable of getting copied, but the NFT ensures that it's authentic, that it's the original work from the original person. And apparently, the NFT also withholds the rights for the artist too. So if you sell, like, say, like if I sell my painting to say D'Angelo, and then he sells it to somebody else, I actually still get currency from the next auction exchange or the next sell. So it's a little bit different than in the usual way of we see art being sold is that once the artist sells it once, they'll never see that extra money that's being kind of appreciated over time. And most of the I think some people that are like really like making a lot of money from it tend to already have a kind of a following. So there's like fans of that artist that are making their artwork become more appreciate over time just because there's these fans that see value in their artwork. But as of course, as the internet goes, then we have other wacky and crazy things that are coming out of that. Where you got the guy that made the Nyan cat, and he's selling that for millions of dollars. I don't know how much he's actually selling it for, but he's selling it for a lot.
There's
And
the
it's
example of
funny.
what's his face, Jack Dawson, the creator of the Twitter, who sold his first tweet for I think millions of dollars.
Oh yeah,
Right?
Jack
Yeah,
Dorsey.
that's so
So
wild.
in a way, Jack Dorsey, my bad.
So the the
I,
the the
it's a
the
crazy
irony,
microcosm.
yeah, the irony too is that like the it's not the value of the item, it is the value of the NFT that's attached to the item in its combination that makes it expensive. It's such a so crazy, so weird. But of
Yeah,
course,
I mean,
it's new and certainly there's a lot of people that just like how cryptocurrency is its own bubble too that went down, of course,
yeah.
over time. NFTs could be the same situation, or likely will be.
What's interesting about it is that I mean, it definitely is the kind of thing that it only works as a collector's item for digital stuff.
Yeah,
You know, um, it's definitely the kind of thing that it really only accrues its value because everybody agrees that hey, Jack Dorsey's first tweet is valuable versus if I started a tweet, just in 20 seconds, right, and in the next 20 seconds it would have absolutely no value, not even to me.
right, right. Yeah, because there's no one
So
else. Like there's not this built up kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Gravitas behind it,
yeah,
or
there's just no big
reputation. There you go.
audience. Yeah, not
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
Just watch me.
Hmm.
But it is also the kind of thing that you were, um, alluding to the fact that because it's so new, there's like this big bubble that I think that at some point it's definitely gonna just pop and slow down at least.
Right. Like people are gonna figure out like what rules to apply to it that retain like legitimacy or value. Because what
Mm.
I'm curious is like, is it possible to take say you have, let's just say you have a like a video, right? You have a video that you have an NFT on it, and but you make that as a separate thing. But are you capable of making, say, cut that video with another video, and that could be its own thing? It's like I have that question, but I haven't found an answer to that one. If that makes sense, you know how like you just edit videos together. Does it still like does it affect at all the original NFTs that you splice together, or is it now like can it be just considered that's its own thing? I'm assuming it could be considered its own thing, and that
I'm guessing the whole thing about NFT is that it's attached to its owner. So
ah
it's more of a way of identifying the ownership, saying like, oh, you can verify if this was made by the original author or if
okay,
someone was
okay, that
just
makes
doing an
sense.
offshoot, because there'll be information that might contain things like exif data saying, oh, this was from this creator's computer, so I know it's from them.
Right.
Like it's kind of
So
like how DeviantArt has all these tags if you upload a work and
right.
it identifies, what app you finished it on and everything. It might be the same thing with an NFT where it's like it would trace all that information saying, oh, this came from a computer with these specs in this system. It was likely the creators, and
I see.
it's kind of like a fingerprint.
Right. I
You
see.
know, I'm thinking, and I thank God that nobody's actually listening to this, because I can't imagine a future in which video game companies don't try to exploit that, or would it even be considered exploit that? If Nintendo wanted to sell their very first, Super Mario Brothers, for millions of dollars as a,
As
quote
an
unquote art
NFT.
form,
Yeah,
as an NFT.
I think it would. I think that's very plausible. Like you already got companies that are trying to like copyright their game design
Hmm.
or like a mechanic
that
in a game.
have done it. Yeah,
Yeah. So like
Oh, which one was that? I forget.
uh
it's
Warner
the
Brothers?
one.
Was it Warner Brothers?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if it was. I mean, it was Warner Brothers, but I can't remember. I don't know if it was the specific game, like the actual studio that did it. It's the guys who made Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War.
Right.
They were
And they
copywriting
probably,
the Nemesis system. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
what it's gonna be.
supposedly copyrighted that, yeah.
they did. Yeah, like it's not. It's they did it.
Yeah, okay. The hierarchy system or something like that. So like it
Yeah, the
would be
Nemesis system.
plausible. Yeah, it would be plausible then to just NFT a whole game, because you could NFT like a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, you
Music
could
artists
turn.
are doing that too. So,
Yeah. It,
Oh
it's
yeah,
in,
the gorillas did that.
mm,
mm. I mean, it's interesting from the point of view that you could have a digital collector's item, right?
yeah.
I
Um,
guess. Yeah.
Interesting from the
if
point of
people
view that
are
that's
interested in that, but I do think it's
yeah.
more interesting that you retain, like there's a permanence that you retain the original work. Like you can create something, and then now no matter what anybody does, it still always be connected to what you did originally. So it's a
See,
copyright without.
How is that different? But how is that? I mean, it's a copyright without a copyright, but like, how is it different than just ownership of the game now? Like, if Ubisoft makes a game and whoever is the main is the lead game designer on it, and they ship the game, do they need that? Like, the public knows that they own the game.
I think
Like,
it's
it's better for
actually.
a smaller scale thing than a large scale thing like that, because it doesn't matter. NFTs become irrelevant at that point.
Well, I'm saying that the original person that made it will still get money no matter what. It's kind of like if you're an
Yeah, but
actor,
like that's what I mean. Like with
right?
Ubisoft, like they release the game, so what does that mean? Then every employee gets money from it who
I
worked
don't
on
know.
it?
I have no idea. I
Because
mean,
if that was the
I'm
case,
not
then
sure.
video game companies would never do that.
Right,
Because then you might as well just let them have unions, which they don't want,
right. Well,
right?
I
Because
don't
they're getting
know. I'm pretty
residual
sure it's
income.
like individual, because I don't think any person has yet done that in NFTs yet as a group. like create
Right, that's
something
what
and
I
then
mean. We're
yeah,
speaking
I'm not
we're
sure.
we're speaking in hypotheticals, but that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean. Like if that's the case, then if it is an individual thing, then that means like I mean, who gets the money then?
Right.
Like does let's say Warner Brothers does that, does Warner Brothers add it as an entity just get the money, but the employees don't, or do all the employees get it who worked on it, or does only the, lead designer or what have you? Like I don't know. Like at that point, yeah, it's
It's really
I don't
nebulous what
know.
happens, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so new that they nobody knows what would happen necessarily. Maybe I guess maybe the person that has the key to that like the physical person that says I am like the representative of this like company as an entity, as an individual entity.
So the
Have
CEO.
Right. So then maybe then they can like if they are capable of creating the NFT themselves and they are the sole ownership of the
Well,
of
what
that
does it take to
thing.
create an NFT?
Uh Apparently so there's like a website that like you have to pay a significant amount of money. It was like a couple hundred. Let's see. Yeah,
Maybe
I think it's there's a website where they would create the specific code that you can then attach to this digital item of some sort. And the person themselves has to apply for it. So I guess depending on like if you're that one person that represents the entirety of the company and the entire company agrees, yes, by you signing this, you are essentially Warner Brothers, or you're essentially the company that owns this game. But I don't think a company would actually do that. But I don't know. Like
Well, sure
maybe
they would. That's kind of my point. Is like that would be another way of fucking over
right,
your actual designers and the actual people in the trenches, right? Because what the person you're describing is the CEO. So if the board, let's say the board of Ubisoft or the board of EA decides that they want to do this, and then they appoint the CEO to be the one with the key, then the CEO says, okay, and for this, I'll give you guys this percentage, and then I'll keep the rest. And then
right.
so now they have that NFT, they sell it or whatever, and then they have like, they
Yeah,
make
that's
millions easily.
that's pretty plausible. I don't think there's any way to stop that from happening.
I mean, I don't think that
Hey,
I don't think that any video game company would be so, terrible as to try to do that. I'm just kidding. Of course they would.
Yeah. If
yeah, it's not like,
they
Bobby
would
Kotick
totally do
for
it.
the fucking millionth time just, gave himself $200 million after laying off hundreds of employees right before. It's not like he just did that again. I mean,
Right.
Right? How fucking scummy is that, dude? You like fire 200 employees and you give yourself $200 million on the money that you saved on their,
yeah.
from their
Yep.
labor.
Well, yeah, it's all legal. So what's
Yeah.
the difference?
Yeah. The loophole that's set up in the company where they can the title ends up getting the extra proceeds. Oh look, that somehow conveniently this money popped up. After all, we fired all these people. Who would have thought?
Right. They turn into Willy Wonka when he saw like, you get nothing, zero, nada, zilch. So get out of my office. Good day, sir. I said good day.
uh, and I think it also depends on like the market, or like the website that you get your code, quote unquote code, because there's like different websites that specialize in different types of things. So unless there's another company that makes a website that specializes on NFT that isn't just music, or there's ones that does images, and then another one does like I don't know what else is there out there. Something. Yeah, there's like these different websites. Super rare. What the hell's this? Yeah, digital artwork. Okay. But yeah, maybe if there's like a website that would be like, oh, you can attach your NFT to this video game. That's interesting if it would be the case. But right now, yeah, so far I've only seen like digital images and 3D stuff. Some of the images are kind of very like meme-ish. Some of them are just
my
straight
whole
up photos.
my whole thought about it is this: like, when we got computers and we got the internet, we were making a huge transition in, how we consume media. And I always thought that digital age was meant to be convenient. Now I get that, online you have transactions, like there are some things that are a gray area. You hire someone as a contractor for private work that might not really be legal, but it's still technically a transaction made. And the way I see it is just like people just want to create scarcity for something that isn't really
Right.
scarce. It's artificial scarcity.
Right.
So you're on one hand, some people see it as a good thing because people are paying like crazy amounts of money to own something, but I just don't really see the real good in this. Like, I just see this as a way for some people to profit off of what doesn't really exist, and that's just artificial scarcity of digital goods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Nintendo's gonna be all over it then.
They are. Yeah, that's their bread and butter.
Like,
Yeah.
Mario dies in 2 days from this podcast, guys.
It's the day that Mario dies, March 31st.
It's like, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Not really a lot of thoughts, but just like that one thought. It's just that, yeah, people are making thousands or millions of dollars just because of some fake form of scarcity, and just have your label slapped on it. Because, yeah, I mean, there are people online who will steal from Patreons and post exclusive content in free places, and this is seen as a good with people like that because they get to safeguard their content and profit as much as they can. Not saying it's evil, I'm just saying that it's stupid. There's
Yeah.
there's a complete
Yeah, there's gonna be a plenty
decline.
of. There's like one person that does it or uses it for good reasons, and then there's gonna be 100 times more other people who use it for stupid reasons.
I mean, one of the worst things about this is that it's also going to feed into the whole scalping market, right? Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are going to buy, all the codes possible for Mario, and then you're just gonna, sell them on sell them on eBay, and also all the, physical copies. They're just gonna sell them on the gray markets as eBay.
There's gonna be like, well, there's also the thing when what happened with cryptocurrency that graphics card people were like buying so many graphics cards just so to mine the cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's just gonna inflate like the prices on graphics cards and the expense of using them, and then like the us having to just create it to keep up potentially that not that we would want to keep up with it, more like the companies trying to keep up with it so that they can actually sell it to people that are using it for not this reason. And then there's like the amount of energy it takes to actually freaking create a cryptocurrency of any sort. It's so much. It's pretty wild. We're in a weird era we are in.
That's why. Did you guys hear about that whole giant ship that was just blocking a canal where, like, just ships
Evergreen, right?
What's that?
Evergreen and the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
Suez Canal, I should say. Yeah, it was stuck for like the entire, like 6 days, 8 days?
Yeah,
Stuck in for a while.
Yeah,
But they recently just loosened the ship. So it's like, imagine that. Your trade just being hauled off. Because there was other shit going on in that too, like the ship's pilot wit in the course in the shape of a penis. I'm like, oh, what is with you, dude? Yeah. Like if you track their course, it looks like a little penis with balls, and it's like, wow. That's a weird way to chart your ship just before you get stuck. Are you having a bad day, sir or madam? Likely a sir.
Likely a sir.
But yeah, apparently a huge amount of like the world's trading was just, completely halted because of that one ship blocking that canal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
mean, yeah, like 10% of the entire, world's trading and stuff was just blocked because they just couldn't get through its fat ass. It's just kind of nice to see something simple like that, in this world of, digital age, that just a stock ship, like, holds the entire, world market by like 10% or something.
Well, that's one way of doing it.
So
that was the plan the whole time. We must stop the world market.
the
this
memes
one
were really
ship.
funny. The memes that came out of it were probably the best thing, but RIP the memes.
NFT the memes, man.
NFT the memes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what's gonna be.
So when companies use your memes, you can actually sue them now.
Huh. Yes.
Uh,
I really want to know what the difference is. I mean, never mind. I was gonna say the difference between copywriting and NFTs, but we might as well not even get into a whole bunch of legalese.
well, I mean, one thing I could say that the difference is that you don't have to revitalize your copyright or your NFT. It's just there. Like whoever has the key to it has the kingdom, I guess you could say. Whereas like in a copyright, you have to like.
That's even more of a problem. Yeah, you have to like re-up it every so many years. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to do something with it, or else you lose it, and it becomes like free use.
You're right. It comes into the public domain. That's
public domain. Yeah. But yeah, it is a weird one, right? Like then that means like if you lose the key, you lose everything. Essentially, I mean, is it just straight up gone? Like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, if it's like, if it's like cryptocurrency, then yeah, because like with cryptocurrency, like you're the bank.
Basically,
you can't call the bank.
Yeah, you're right.
Like
I just remembered.
So
wasn't there a guy that lost the password to his cryptocurrency?
Yeah, and he has like
lost millions of dollars.
He had like 26 million in cryptocurrency, and he forgot the password because he wrote it down years ago on like a post-it and forgot it. Yeah, and so he had like 2 attempts left, and he's like, I'm fucked. Like I'll never be able to do this.
Right.
And that's it. There's no one to call. There's no like assistance line or anything. You're the bank. Like you're responsible for everything.
Right.
You know his family is never gonna let him live that down.
Oh sure.
Oh yeah,
like,
I'm
hey,
pretty
Mike,
sure he doesn't have a family anymore.
Hey Mike, remember that time you lost $26 million?
Went down the drain, Dad. The wife is all like, "We could have paid off everything."
Next time he tries to log on his email, people
She's
are
like,
gonna be
"I'm gonna do you the
you remember
favor.
your password?
Once you figure out the password, you can pay for this divorce."
Damn.
Damn. God, that's jeez. That's a whole new. Oh man, that's a whole new level of like, holy shit. God. To think that you have like, oh man, in a post-it note. Come on, of all things.
All right.
Oh,
well, it's like
Lord.
obviously it was when like Bitcoin was like super low, so it wasn't worth anything. But like
so
even then, like
the
fact that you have it in the account, like just make it ironclad. Like just put it like just put it on every device. Email it to yourself. Just make sure, just in case, because that's the whole reason you have it. Like just in case one day it goes up, I'll be fucking rich. Like just take the the small amount of time it would take just to do the due diligence.
Oh man.
Years ago there was
that's
a
another
tournament.
good point. It is a lot like a stock. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, years ago there was a tournament where, a StarCraft tournament where it was a small thing, and the first prize was like $500. Second prize was like $200. The last 7th to 8th prize were 25 bitcoins. That's when you
Yeah.
know that back then it was like nothing. I hope those guys kept those 25 bitcoins.
Yeah,
Right.
or even one.
Yeah.
You're pretty good even with one.
That's crazy.
You'll
That's so
be
crazy.
sitting pretty.
Hilarious.
Well, if they start selling Bitcoin, or if they start giving out Bitcoins as prizes in any of the Evo contests, Sony will own that now. So
Oh God, yeah, I heard about that.
Sony bought Evo, just the event, just the
Right.
event. Evo.
Just the event, yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you guys think about that though? Like the thing I heard was that that's their way of like show another event to show off new stuff. But that's it. Like I don't know what else it means.
I mean, I guess
It's for fighting games and other types of competitive type
what is it?
games. Why
that-
would you want to put your jaws into that? It's like,
Yeah. I know,
Sony,
right?
you don't have a monopoly on fighting games.
Yeah, like does
well,
it mean
especially
that
because
only
Sony doesn't
games?
even have any. Sony doesn't even have any proprietary fighting games. So it's just like,
Right,
are
like-
they trying to make, are they trying to make moves, to trying to counter, Microsoft's Bethesda acquisition, or what? Because honestly, that's not the right way to go about it. Like
Right.
that's, frankly, like you're not going to make that much money off of fighting games. Nowhere near the amount you're going to make from Elder Scrolls and Fallout and all the shit that Bethesda did. So yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what their thought process was with this one. They're making a lot of weird decisions over there, as usual, and I'm flabbergasted as usual. Meanwhile, Microsoft is just sitting pretty because to be fair, they can afford to do this, just the same way they can afford to keep taking the hits from Game Pass, which is without a doubt unanimously not profitable at all. Like they lose so much money with Game Pass. The problem is that they can afford to lose all that money, and they can afford, just like they can afford to spend double what Disney spent for Star Wars on Bethesda or on ZeniMax. They can afford to just take the hits. So, but Sony could never do something like that. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what this means. Yeah, it's another puzzling move.
Yeah, it's like another unnecessary kind of thing. Like
yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what they get out of this, honestly. Like I don't. Yeah, but maybe they have some kind of plan. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're cooking something up. We just don't know. We can't
So-
we can't follow their crazy ideas.
Yeah,
Do you know what they
they're
say?
too smart
Sony
for
works
us.
in mysterious ways.
Yeah, they do say that.
All right.
It's just
Yeah.
all right. So, I was just gonna
NFTs.
say, NFTs. I was just gonna say, how companies are. The more confident they get, the weirder things they start doing because they get too really cocky.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Sony obviously notorious for that, but Microsoft has done that as well, and it's But the problem is with Sony, like the thing with Microsoft is that Xbox is like the people on the board of Microsoft don't give a shit about Xbox, despite how profitable it is, because the rest of their departments are so much more profitable than Xbox. And Xbox, it thrives because of the money that they can get from the rest of the company. Whereas with Sony, it's the inverse. Everything revolves around PlayStation. PlayStation is their most profitable product by a mile, and it's their centerpiece. So if anything goes wrong with that, the ship is going down. So that cocky Sony, they got to play it. They got to be careful, with how they act, because they're on top now, but you know, they've gotten cocky before, and it cost them dearly. So, yeah, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, back in the days, at least they had other products to, you know,
That was a
keep
long
themselves
time ago.
afloat.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
yeah.
That was a very
Now-
long time ago.
Now it's just PlayStation or die.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know, right? Speaking of death, I guess we
Yes.
can.
Well done. Yeah, good segue.
I know, right?
That's a good
Speaking
segue,
of-
yeah.
That's like, thank you. And speaking of death, I guess we can hop onto our next, wonderful topic. You know, something a little bit more lighthearted than NFTs. Death. Um,
Totally lighthearted.
what was I gonna say? Well, in the game Deathloop, the reason why I was thinking about it is because it works in the same way as Groundhog's Day. You live in a death loop, trying to get to
Another
the
good
last
segue.
boss. I know the good segue, but yeah. Do you guys remember the first time you died in video games?
In a
I
video
mean, it
game.
must have been. I don't remember the exact time, but I mean, I think the first game I played was either Super Mario Brothers or Ninja Turtles on the NES. It was one of those games. That was definitely one of the games. I don't remember when I mean, I don't know
I think
what.
I think that Super Mario Brothers must have been the first actually game that I remember ever playing to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like
I mean, I probably died to the Goomba, that first Goomba, I would guess, like just because I was a kid and I
Right.
didn't know what the fuck was going on. What is this thing coming towards me?
like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to jump right over it.
Exactly.
Oh, I hit that block. Oh, and now I'm dead.
Yeah.
I mean, death used to be so simple back in the days.
Yeah.
You run out of you run out of lives. It's pretty much game over. You got to start all the way from the beginning.
Or another way of dying by boredom.
This is true.
Because I remember.
I mean, that's pretty much Sonic CD.
Yeah.
I remember playing. I mean, this is not like my first game or anything, but I remember. Anybody remember this game called was it Mystic or something or Mysticism?
Mist?
I think
Mist
it's Mist.
or
Myth.
yeah.
No, wait, Mist. It was Mist.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I remember dying of boredom. Cause there's no death mechanic in there. You just solve it or you don't. And I was like, couldn't when you get to that point where you just you can't solve it anymore, you're just like,
Right.
I give up right now. Like I can't play this anymore.
What was that game? Was it some sort of click and point adventure or something?
Kind of like that, yeah. It's
Yeah, it was like a first-person adventure.
heavily
Mhm.
puzzle based. So
I
you
see.
had to figure out the puzzle. There was no nothing chasing you or anything like that, and you're trying to navigate this mysterious whatever island that you're in, and
Right.
and these mechanics that are happening there. That
Is
you
that
just
is that an island that's really misty?
yes,
Okay. That was a pretty bad joke.
it is misty, therefore called mist. I'm glad you're so observant. Like that, I couldn't figure out for the life.
You
of
know
me.
me.
Wait, why is this called Mist?
I always heard about Mist, but I never played it. Was it anything like the Stephen King movie or the book, and then
dear
they
God,
made
no.
it into a movie, The Mist, which
No,
was
no.
also terrible?
No. Okay,
Have you guys
the
seen that?
movie is more entertaining.
What a terrible!
I don't
What a
like Mist.
terrible movie!
Yeah, it's not a good
the
movie.
end is terrible. The kid
Yeah.
or the dude shoots his kid because he's like, okay, we're gonna die, and then he shoots the kid,
And then
and then
fucked up
the
part
tank
is,
rolls by right as he does it. I'm like, what? What the fuck?
yeah,
He's rescued right as he does it.
There was nothing poetic about that.
Yeah,
It was literally like you just
was
got
almost a-
trolled.
yeah,
You
exactly.
got played, son. Too bad.
I can imagine the mist as he just withdraws away, going like, ha ha.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I feel like that was one of those movies where also me being bamboozled was the most just the worst. You
Yeah.
went through all this, just
It
for
was, yeah,
him
it
to
was
get.
the worst sort. It was the worst sort of twist for sure.
Yeah,
Where it's
it
just
was like
the twist happens and then it makes the movie worse. That's
Right.
the twist. Like
Right.
it's bad now. Like
Yeah.
and then it's over. That's it. It's just like
Like
what?
it would have made sense if it had some concept of like maybe you're alluding to the fact that something inevitable would happen or something, or maybe he's like fighting this urge to just end it all. Maybe
Right.
I don't know. Like the message didn't like click well. Let's just say.
No, it reminds
Ugh.
me of another terrible movie, which is the book is supposed to be a lot better, The Road by Cormac McCarthy, but the movie I just remember it being so boring, despite it having a great cast and stuff. And then it has a similar ending where like Viggo Mortensen's character is like dying, I believe, and like his kid's like, oh, what are we gonna do? It's like you'll be okay, don't worry, and he dies. And as soon as he dies, like a family comes by and they're like, hey, we'll adopt you. And he's like, okay.
Okay, and he just goes,
I'm
yeah.
like, what the fuck? Like
it.
they were just waiting. Like this is
They
ridiculous.
just happened to be there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly,
It's
the whole
like my
movie was
daddy
just about-
never died.
exactly.
The whole movie was just basically about, following these two hobos.
Yeah,
For like
it was.
an
I mean,
hour and a
yeah,
half.
it was Lord of the Rings without any of the good shit. It was just the walking.
It was
Like,
just
that's
the
it.
walking.
It's just the walking
So
now.
boring. I just remember
Yeah.
that. I was just like, because it got all these Academy Awards, and I'm like, okay, like let's
Why?
see. This has got to be at least decent. And I'm just like, man, this is fucking
Yeah,
terrible.
what was happening
Like,
with the Academy Awards? They just like are tone deaf. They got paid
Well,
off. It's okay.
yeah,
might have-
they're
yeah.
they're
Yeah,
like that a
probably.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, they get marketed a lot, even though
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not supposed to.
But okay. Well, anyways, Myst it has no death in the game, and that was definitely an example of where death to me was the boredom of just not being able to get anywhere. Right?
You know, that reminds me of a lot of those, walking simulators that a lot of people just don't like them because there is no death.
Right. I think that's a good point to come across in the fact that we
Well, this
need
does. I
some
mean,
sort of
some
death
them,
state.
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah.
even if it's a shallow one,
Well,
like you don't
yeah.
really die, you just kind of go back to the
Sure,
checkpoint and you
right.
can go back again. Like, I can't.
You
I
need
don't
some
know.
kind
Unless
of
you
a
have an
reset,
example of a game with like absolutely no death state that you just are just stuck. Like you just have to solve it. That's it. There's no backwards.
Monkey Island.
Which one?
Monkey Island actually has
Right. Okay.
a reference where it rips on Myst too. I
Ah.
think it was the Curse of
That
Monkey
seems
Island,
right.
which is like playing an
Double
interactive
Fine, right?
cartoon.
Double Fine Studios.
Yeah.
Well,
Was it that
it's
Double Fine?
the guy
I
who
forget.
works for Double Fine. He did work on that, but Lucasfilm Games actually had the
Oh,
rights
yeah,
to
you're right.
Monkey Island.
Right.
And
right. Tim
but
Schafer.
basically, yeah, it's just yeah, it is. It's designed in a way where you don't die, and it also talks about how death isn't really a part of the games, but you can still get stuck, and you can still have ways that you can get punished. But a lot of it is just doing things over again. But it tries to take the adventure genre and just takes a player on more of a comical journey. So, like the course of death doesn't really matter. It's just the experience of the game is what makes the game. There's really no failure states. There are puzzles. There are puzzles that can be hard or confusing, but not necessarily punishing.
So when
Yeah.
what happens? What is the failure state in it, if anything?
Usually,
you're saying
the
there
climax has something that's close to a failure state. So when you're facing off the antagonist of the series, you're supposed to solve a puzzle, and then there is an element of being chased in those, or there's an element of you have to act, or else you'll get hit, or there's a suspenseful element. It's not necessarily a death state, and it's not necessarily actually dying. It's there just to either have fun for the player, or it's just there just to say, hey, okay, here's something where it's not necessarily a quick time event. You're just going to get slapped around, but we want to have fun here, and this is just how it's going to be. Like the closest thing you get to a death state is in the first game when you're underwater. You're the villain like sinks you to the bottom of the sea, and then you have to try to find a way to get out. And if you stay for a certain amount of time, you'll drown and get a fake death scene.
Oh.
But and it'll be like, oh yeah, this is your game over. Ha, just kidding. Okay, solve the puzzle. But it's just pretty much that. It like has a laugh when like, oh, you didn't think you die. Okay, here's a fake death scene, but you just kind of move on anyway. You don't have to continue or load a save or anything. But yeah, that's the only thing that they do where it's like, hey, this is a death.
Uh,
I see.
yeah, I mean, the lack of death really like fundamentally like changes the type of game that you're gonna make. And I think that, not having a death date per se works better for games that are more narratively intensive. Like, the things like, Telltale games where, most of the times you might fail a cutscene, but it might just take your character into a different direction. Or games like,
Well, I
Days.
mean, you can still die in those games, though.
Yeah, I was thinking of that wasn't. I'm trying to think of a
Like, because you're
narrative
right,
game.
it does like sometimes it'll just like, oh, you didn't get hit by the axe, and it takes you in a different to a different way. But sometimes you get hit by the axe, and it sends you back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
There are
Walking.
games that you played. The what's it called? Um, what is left of Edith Finch?
What remains? Yeah,
What remains of Edith Finch?
yeah,
How did you like that game?
I loved it.
And see, that game doesn't have a death state, right?
I don't believe so. I don't think you can die. I mean, yeah, because that game, yeah, it is like it's like there's no way for you. As far as I recall, like I played like a year ago, but as far as I can recall, there's no way that you can die because like there's no way that you can kill yourself or that the environment will like attack you. So yeah, it's like you're only being guided by the story. Like it's not on rails, but it's very like it's very like safe. Like there's no antagonistic forces coming at you at all.
Right. From what I remember, that game, it's about this girl going back to her old, for her old home and just exploring, through the memories in the old home. Correct.
Well, it's that she's pregnant and she's going back to an old family home, and the whole premise is that her family is quote unquote cursed, and that they have all died in like terrible ways and way before their time, and you basically see through the memories and through the eyes of each one of the family members that have died, and you get to play as them for a little while, and you play in like different types of you get to basically see like the last moments, and it's pretty sad, but it's also it's really really great, and but I mean, I guess in that way you die because you're seeing each character die, but like it's not a failure state. That's actually progressing you in the game. Like every time you get to the end of that character's story, that character dies, but then you go back as Edith, and then you keep progressing with the story. So the death is actually the only way you can progress in the game.
That is really interesting.
That's interesting. A lot of games have been using failure states as a way to progress the game, which then doesn't necessarily make it a failure state to some degree.
Yeah.
Because I can think of like how like Dark Souls, in some ways, it's encouraging.
Can't go a show without mentioning Dark Souls.
Yeah, pretty much, right? There's Dark Souls, and then there's a lot
Bloodborne
of games
specifically, right? Where like you have to die.
Yes.
Like in that, for when you wake up in the clinic, and then like if you kill the werewolf or whatever, that's fine. But basically, until you die the first time, you can't get to the hunter's dream and like get your weapons and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Right, and then there's like games that are coming out even now that use death as a way to progress. I feel like Death Stranding does a little bit of that too.
That's true.
Where like when you die and you can,
How did I not think of Death Stranding? Honestly, I only actually died once in that entire game, and that was one of the best parts of uh that game, dying, because it was the one point
Huh.
where like you actually see like the effect of what happens when those whatever ghosts get to you. They like
Oh yeah, the
annihilate
BTs.
with you in a thermonuclear, the BTs, thank you,
Hmm.
they annihilate in a thermonuclear explosion, and now
It
you
progresses
can no
the
longer.
world. Actually, you know
Yeah.
what? That's the funny thing that I
Right.
think is kind of a failing thing about Death Stranding, in my opinion, is that I didn't die often enough.
Yeah.
So then I didn't
Interesting.
really experience enough of like how the world changed. But when you did die, then you're like, holy shit! Like this was here this one time, but I died, and now like I don't know how much time passed,
Yeah.
but something had happened, and now this environment's different.
You know, I
Yeah,
was
Shadow and Mordor and Shadow of War, those games work similarly. They work in conjunction with the Nemesis system,
Mm.
where like the Nemesis system being the hierarchy system of orcs, and like you're killing them, and you're killing the captains, and basically rearranging their hierarchy. But if you die, like if they kill you, then
get
like
stronger.
as the deaths basically at the loading screen, you're seeing like how the hierarchy. Okay, this captain killed you, so now he's risen up in the ranks. But then this other, there was a mutiny or something, and basically the hierarchy changes so that when you get back, and I think in Shadow of War, which is the second one, since you take over castles and you leave your allies in charge of the castles while you're away, if you die, then they'll be taken over, and your allies might either die or be held captive
Uh,
until you
huh.
get back to them. Um, so yeah, that's pretty. It really does
That's pretty
change the
cool.
entire
I think
thing, and
I think I feel
obviously
like
killing them, killing like the orcs
right.
themselves. Like sometimes you'll kill them and they'll be dead, but then sometimes you think you kill them and then they'll come back like hours later with a scar across their head, and then they sewed up their
Yeah.
brain or whatever, and they're like they remember you, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and they're more powerful, and they have like a whole gang around them, and then they have like new weapons and new tactics. Pretty cool.
Right, right. It feels like that you're in this kind of ever-changing world.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
it's very
pretty cool.
dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, that mechanic is so good that when I first played that game at Jose's house, like I spent like 3 hours playing that game, and then I, did the first story when they gave me my first power.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't real like I didn't need like the story at all. Like I could just keep going
Oh
through
yeah, for
all by
sure.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
like a lot of games that we're talking about is like they're using death mechanic to kind of progress the story. What about like ones where it's extremely punishing, where it's like the more that you die, the more regressive you become. And I could one example of that for me is would be the game's Fire Emblem, where you can potentially, again, this is an option, you don't actually have to play it this way,
Ooh,
but
yeah.
most people I think would say Fire Emblem like this is kind of like the way that you're supposed to play it, like the point
With the
to the game.
permadeath
Yeah, where your
for your characters.
characters, like pivotal, like story characters, will like if they die, they're dead. Like they're not
Mhm.
coming back.
Right.
It's just gone. And there's that, and then there's Persona. Persona to me was pretty harsh in terms of like if you don't,
You only get one chance to do
yeah,
everything.
yeah, exactly. When you get to a point in the game where you missed something like on
Yeah.
its way, then you're like you're being punished pretty hard. Like you're just stuck.
Yeah.
It's just like it'll be a miracle to get through it. And I feel like to me that's a different way of using failure state in the
Yeah.
sense that you're just missing the thing that you need to progress, not that you're gonna die, like and then suddenly it like the game says game over type of thing. It's more like you just keep having to get stuck, and you need to just make sure that you have other game saves. I
Yeah.
honestly I don't think that's a good way of doing that unless you had something like a chapter select option where you can reverse your like like at this point in the game I didn't do like I may have missed something so I'm gonna replay that part like what's that one game isn't there there's like a story based game came out on the PS3 I think
For what? What
it
is?
was can't remember the name. It had a skull on it. It was just basically the story progressed, and you can choose the chapter. Kind of like Heavy Rain. You know what I mean? Like that in that series of games. There's
Right.
one where you can go back to certain chapters in the story, like fluidly. Like you don't have to beat the game to get all the chapters unlocked. You just can just go
Right.
there, cause like something could branch off in a different way.
You could do
Right.
that in Detroit Become Human, but that's from this generation. I mean, this
Okay,
PS4 generation.
maybe
Yeah.
that's the one I'm talking about, but I
Maybe
could have
so.
sworn
With
there was
the
another one.
androids and stuff? Well, I mean, there's
I-
Beyond Two Souls with Ellen Page. Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe, maybe.
Elliot Page now.
Yeah, true.
True.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I wonder if she regrets doing that particular game because it doesn't sound like she had a lot of fun doing it. He
Oh, really?
had a lot of fun doing it.
I don't know.
Or,
Was there
no, it was
interviews
the-
that she said something?
No, I think that I was just remembering the one controversy where like the
Oh.
modelers like somebody like twisted a little bit of the camera here and there, and they were able to see one scene where she's showering, so you can see
Ah.
her naked body. So and that was
Ah.
not even something that she even like posed for. It's something that
Oh, okay, I see.
yeah.
So they
Hmm,
assume.
I
So
see.
she never had her actual likeness as like nude.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
never had a nude like photo reference of her, but they
Right.
did
They
it
modeled
anyways.
it.
Huh.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
But anyway, I
you
want
know,
to talk.
that's a fair thing for her to say, at least, or for him to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, anyways.
Was there could you die in that game Beyond Two Souls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like the other David Cage games.
The way that it's
Detroit
treated in
or having-
Detroit Become Human is pretty interesting.
In what way?
And
Is it-
specifically the android, like,
Connor?
because spoiler alert, yeah, Connor can actually die in several parts of the story. And,
I mean, yeah, pretty much anybody can die.
Oh, that's true. Huh. But it's not a failure state. Like the story continues even if everybody dies.
Well, yeah, just not for that character. It's a failure state for that story arc, I guess. Not entirely.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
thinking it that way for sure, that makes sense. Like the story cannot continue basically, so in a sense, it is a failure state. But then, like at the same time, it still the game can go on without that story, or I guess. Or
Yeah,
the rest
yeah.
of the game can go out. I mean, I can't say anything. I haven't played the game.
It's a really
From my understanding, though.
even if not everything is well written in that game, like it's a really ambitious like story progression. Like there's so
Yeah.
many choices you can make in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great game, but it has like sort of the typical David Cage ham-fisted like
Yeah.
dialogue that's like a little too on the nose. It's like I get that like he's French and that it's some of the stuff it has to do with localization or just like loss in translation stuff, but
Mhm.
like a lot of the dialogue is just like the dialogue is basically not really the strong part of that game.
The
It's
acting
like sort
is
of everything
fantastic.
else around it. Yeah.
Like
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
give a prop to these actors. Like they were great.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna talk about like pretty much Hideo Kojima games like Death Stranding and Metal Gear, in which, well, not so much focused on you dying, but actually the NPCs dying because
Right.
specifically in Death Stranding, like the whole point is like you don't want to kill anybody because you're gonna be creating more of those ghosts. And what was I gonna say? In Metal Gear games, you can pretty much do entire pacifist runs.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's also ways of like in Metal Gear sort of orchestrating death like the way you want. Like in Metal Gear Solid 3, like you can just kill the enemies, you can go through, but you can also do it in a way where it's like, okay, you're in the jungle and there's troops out here and they have like food deliveries and stuff. And you can like sabotage the food deliveries so that either they don't get
Really?
them
You
and they
can
go
do that?
hungry,
Yeah.
Or-
That is
I remember
so
or
that.
you
cool.
can poison
Yeah.
it and like
So
they
funny.
get sick. or they die. And
That's
it's
MGS3,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's the one. That's the one Metal Gear I haven't played.
That's
Yeah, that
still
was
my
a very
favorite
good
one.
Yeah.
I love that one. Yeah, but yeah, that's so cool. I mean, there's so many cool things in that game, but that was always something where I was just like, dude, this is insane. Like the way you can fuck with these guys is unfair. Like,
Yeah.
you're just one man,
so
but you're
funny.
like destroying them, like without even touching them. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, that's the best part about playing Metal Gear was just the ability to mess with the soldiers was just
Yeah.
hours of fun. Even if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like goofy things, like you're just doing piles and piles of bodies in one room.
Oh yeah.
It's so absurd. But like, and not in a Hitman kind of way where it's like the game mechanic isn't correct. Like,
Right.
like one person slips over this and then suddenly a guard gets alerted and you're like, what the hell? I wasn't even part of this. He just did it on his own. Like, I didn't put it there. Like,
Right.
like that kind of stupid shit. Or like, like you're right next to the guy and then he still doesn't get alerted. He even turns like around you in the sense that he turns, it faces you, goes away, comes like to the corner, and then suddenly you're alerted, like from
Right.
like 100 feet away now. Like, what the fuck? It doesn't make sense. But the thing is like Metal Gear was like the mechanic was so tight that you understood that the fucking soldier isn't stupid, but at the same time you understood how to exploit them, but not in the mechanic way, more like as it was meant to be exploited.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
like sticking a C4 on top, right? Gently sticking a C4 on the back of a fucking soldier. It was meant to do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't some like goofy, oh, we didn't think of that mechanic.
Right.
Like you had to very carefully like do that. To even attempt to do that is ridiculous, right? Like, who thinks of that, right? But it's you're capable of doing it. It's crazy.
I love it
It's
when
crazy.
when developers like they take that amount of time to make like those small details in terms of like the way you can like fuck with NPCs.
Yeah.
Like in Fallout, the way that Fallout and even Skyrim to an extent, like the amount that you can like pickpocket or reverse pickpocket, like putting a cherry bomb, like you pickpocket, but then and you're in their pocket so you can see their inventory, but you can also see your inventory, so you can put like a cherry bomb in their pocket,
Right.
run away, and they'll explode, and then you get all their stuff. Or my favorite was in Skyrim, where I literally pickpocketed this soldier, but I had such high like stealth ability that I pickpocketed all of the clothes off of him as he was walking. And he was just walking. He never noticed that I did it. He was just walking around naked. It was fucking hilarious.
It's so ridiculous. It's just you level it up to such absurdity, like
Yeah. And again, it's totally meant to do that.
Yeah,
like as
yeah,
many
yeah.
glitches and bugs as there were in that game, that's not one of them. That is totally intentional. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That is also definitely a sketch we should make. About absurd things you can do.
Like gamey things that are like there, but like it doesn't make sense in reality, but like
Yeah. Video game logic sketches.
yeah. Oh my god, it's hilarious.
Well, Metal Gear Solid 5 did a really good job too of like not only not punishing you for like for killing the NPCs, but actually encouraging you to like keep them alive and actually recruiting them with the whole balloon system.
Well, like more spoilers. If you're gonna play Metal Gear 3, if you go the passive route, there's a point in the game where because if you went to the passive route and didn't kill anybody, let's just say there's a boss fight where there's supposed to be ghosts.
We've talked about this before, so we already know.
I know.
Okay.
I've seen analysis of that game. So I
Yeah.
pretty much know all the spoilers, unfortunately.
Still worth playing though. I would still
Yeah.
say it's worth
Oh,
playing,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
even
Oh,
if you know all the story beats.
There's the I keep on mentioning the one about killing the end.
The end
For
is the
more-
best. The end is like maybe the best example of like
Yeah.
how of the different insane ways you can kill a single like NPC in a game like ever. Like it's just amazing. Like, and again, totally thought out. Totally thought out. You can
Yeah.
kill him right in the wheelchair, or you can kill him and it just like with a sniper rifle as a face off in the jungle, or you can set the clock ahead like 2 days and he's just dead. Or like it's just amazing.
amazing.
Like
Nice of all age.
yeah, exactly.
Do you remember that's what was it, the special edition they made? I think it was like Metal Gear Substance or some shit.
Subsistence,
and they had like
yeah.
Subsistence. Yeah, they had the. I love that they actually took the time to put in like fake bloopers in there.
Oh, the gag reel.
Fucking
Yeah, that was cool.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Do you
Bloopers?
remember when the end
Yeah.
is like hidden in all the cutscenes with Ava
Yeah.
or some shit? And he's like
Yeah.
actually a peeping Tom, and then in the end he gets like run over by her, and then he just blows up and says the end. It's so funny. Fucking hell! Like who does that? Who comes back to their game that they've made
Yeah.
years ago and then add something as ridiculous as bloopers? Bloopers don't exist in fucking games, and they
No.
went through the time to fucking animate that and redo
Yeah.
those scenes. Who does that, right? Like, it's fucking genius.
You know what they say? Art is never finished, only abandoned.
Oh man, yeah. Our rip Metal Gear was it 4, right? Like the whole like they never got to finish the whole like
5.
liquid. Oh, it was a 5, right? Yeah, for 5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
Where
a
they
classic
just ride off with the Metal Gear as
Mm-hmm.
liquid as a kid, and we just never get to see the island or any of that cool stuff they were gonna do.
I hated that kid. He was a piece of. He's a little shit.
Yeah, it was such an annoying fight. It's like flashbanging you and like kicking you in the shin. It's like, you fucking kidding me? Getting owned by this little piece
kicking
of
my
shit.
ass. I am the boss. I am the boss.
Oh my god.
Oh, man.
Oh man. But
That's what I
yeah. Failure states. Yeah. Is there any like what else is there in failure states too? Like it is a really cool mechanic lately. It's especially I feel like it's a huge trend that even now it's being,
I
changed.
mean, especially with games like roguelites, so that are popping up everywhere, like Hades and Dead Cells,
Yeah.
or like that is your main, way of progressing. Like you get
Yeah.
further into the story. You don't have all the gear that you need, and once you die, you can level up and and get more powerful.
Right. Dying is an okay thing. Yeah. And it's just
Specifically,
all part of the
Hades.
experience.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Hades, like the character that you're
I like that the story continues. Like that's essentially what's
Yeah, that's
the
really
most
cool.
interesting.
Yeah. He's in a what's his name? His name is Saggers. He's the your character's called Saggers. His name is he's apparently the god of rebirths. So there's like a
Mm.
whole narrative to why he's like constantly dying over and over and over.
Mm.
And it
Right.
also forms part of like the story of like you trying to get out of Hades.
Right. You're trying to get out of hell.
I mean, there's also the different ways, that health works in games. That but in the old days, let's say in the NES or whatever, you're playing Ninja Gaiden, and you only have so many lives or whatever. And then obviously in more modern games, for the most part, sometimes you'll have like regenerating health, like in Call of Duty, right? You shoot a bunch, there's blood splatters your screen, you take cover long enough, and then your health regenerates. And then I know that in the Wolfenstein games, they intentionally wanted to go against that, so they made it so you don't have regenerating health, but you have to pick up health packs. And some people like that, some people don't. The health pack one especially. I usually like regenerating health, just because it tends to make the game more fun, and you can get into a flow more easily than like, oh shit, I have 40 health left. I have to go break away from this gunfight and go find health. Right. Like, like it just like it sort of messes up the momentum.
Right.
So
plus you don't get into those moments where you're like like you were saying, like there's only like one pack of 40 health over there, and now you're stuck with like a room full of bad guys. So you're like, okay, how the hell am I gonna get out of this situation?
Right. And a lot of times with that, the only way to do that is to die and then reset. Whereas with like if you have regenerating health, it's like, okay, I can take cover, I can plant traps or whatever game you're playing. But then like there's always a chance for you to basically, or there's a better chance for you to be basically like finesse your way through that situation. Whereas with health packs, like it's just kind of like, okay, I use all the ones here, like that's it. But I think I'd say there's pros and cons to both. But typically, I tend to go with something that makes a game more fun than, even though I like a good challenge, like I prefer the challenge not to come from like how I die. Yeah.
Something that doesn't make it, so inconvenient for you to die, which I'm gonna refer back to something like Dark Souls, where, a lot of like, your impulse to want to keep trying is, your fucking frustration with the fact that, you just died and you have to, go pick up the 90,000 souls that are like all the way at, down the ass end of the entire level, and, some little guy just pokes you to death, and there go your 90,000 souls.
Right.
Which later on they got a little bit better at not making it seem so unfair. In the very first Dark Souls, there were some areas in which you just had to traverse the entire goddamn level to get to the boss fight, and you died in like 2 hits, and now you just have to traverse all the way through. And later iterations like put little shortcuts that just kind of put you right in front of the boss fight.
Right.
Think definitely like when it comes to like failing and like how the health bar works, or like how your health works in the game, might also have to do with the level design too. I think to kind of go off of what you're saying about like regenerating health and pickup health, is like health pickups need to be placed like it at that point. I think it's the level designers, like very much they're they gotta play it smart to put it in its right place.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you have a regenerative health, then you don't need to think about the player's health, because then, like,
it's on them.
Right.
Like, it's the onus of the player.
Exactly, and it's a little easier for them to design it that way. For the momentum for the player, just for regenerative health. But when you do the thing where you have the health as a pick-upable place, you have to consider, like, the level designer has to consider, okay, is the enemies going to be too much for the player? Is it on the way the path? Like, is it out of their way? And it depends on, like, the type of game you're playing, too. Because, like, I remember, like, I think Doom probably is a good example on it. Because I felt, even though you could pick up stuff.
The new one or the old one?
Like, the old one, like, you had to pick them up to get the health back. The new one is more like, you had to pick up the weapons and the ammo, and then like you had to like, it was purposely trying to put you in a situation where you had to fight to
right. You get the health back from the enemy. So like the more you kill, the more health you get.
Right.
So then, it encourages aggression.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It encourages a way where you have to think about the path you take, where there either is the enemy or where the enemy you're trying to get away from to pick off the ones that you want to. So it's like, like, I think, like, at that point, like, it's an interesting way of, like, making progression happen within the state of, like, you're kind of pushing the player forward, versus like, if it's a pick-upable item, then it's like, now a different way of thinking happens, where like, okay, I have full health. I know where the health is, so I'm going to save it there, knowing that once I need to, like, my life goes down, I have to go back to that spot, which then that means the game needs to be designed in a way where you can, like, put yourself in that situation. I think there even in competitive games where failure is like either it's something that could be an advantage or a disadvantage, and where the health could be, because I remember was it years ago there was like I think it was Quake. Like this back when like tournaments and stuff like that was like a new thing.
Like Unreal Tournament stuff like that.
Yeah, like Unreal Tournament. Yeah, there was this player that like he won the tournament, and he of all things I think he won a Ferrari. It's a weird thing. Anyways,
Wow.
yeah, he legitimately I think he
This
won
is
a
back in the
Ferrari.
day?
Yeah, this is like we're talking like Epic Studios when they made Unreal Tournament and stuff like that, or even Quake. I forget it. They didn't make Quake. I think it was I'm pretty sure it was Epic because
Oh yeah.
the guy
Unreal.
had actually had like he put his Ferrari, like the game designer or programmer put his Ferrari or some shit as I could be wrong. I can't remember what it was. It was definitely a car. And
It
a
was
really
Honda
expensive
Civic.
car.
A 97 Honda Civic. It's
Oh,
expensive for
no.
a developer at the time, okay?
Oh my god. But yeah, he that was like the prize or something, right? And the thing was about that the competitor is that he did something that no one had thought about, was that he used the you know how like you have to pick up like health and armor and stuff, right? And there's like specific buffs in the map that you could get like a quad damage or some stupid shit like that, right? But he purposely, because you could pick it up even while you're maxed, he did it on purpose to pick it up to deny his opponent the ability to get it.
Nice.
Right. So then there was like a strategy that was
Yeah.
basically because he did that and he won the tournament like by a mile, became like this big kind of strategy of punishing the teammate, the enemy,
The enemy.
by taking it before they did, and
Right.
then it got to a point where people were remembering the spawn rates of
Huh.
like how long
Right.
it took for it to come back, and
I
then
love-
that means you would take that territory, so you knew that
Right.
if you picked it up, then you can come back in 30, 29 seconds, whatever seconds it is, just to come back to take it again, and then just attrition them to death. And then
I love
Right.
it when people find out, those little strategies that,
Right.
in retrospective just seem so obvious. Like, oh, I should have just
Yeah.
taken their health like before they got there, and
yeah, it's pretty
all of a
wild.
sudden it's all of a sudden everybody's using it.
Right. And then that in itself is like, like you're putting a level design aspect is that, you have to think about how your mechanic works with the health and how it works in a competitive way. And then there's like stuff like, was it Counter-Strike does the same thing in terms of that, okay, you lose the round, maybe like you lose the round, but then they have this thing there, say you have like, oh, this is my saving round, so I don't use my money till I get enough for the good gun, and then then the whole game could flip in my end, because maybe I have 4 rounds of losing, let's just say. So that the 5th and 6th round, I can save my money for the better gun to outplay my opponents in the next coming rounds, and then now I've gotten the money that I need to defeat my opponents. But you use that with your teammates too, where you share that pool. So you got, what's it called? It's like something called your entry frag and then your bottom fragger. So the bottom fragger is the guy that's dying a lot, right? So they can't make the money to get the good gun. But because you have your top fragger that got the money, they can then put the money into it. So then you have to throw your round and die, but if you don't tell your teammate like where they were, then you're gonna essentially screw yourself in the long run. So death in that game is important because you have to think of the economy, like how much currency we're as a whole losing if I don't be the first to get killed here to tell them where they are. Because there's no other way you can find out where the opponent is by, somebody has to die. Like somebody has to die. There's no kind of way around that. And it's interesting that in a game that's like taking the strategy of death as a long-term success is interesting.
Right.
And I feel like death death states in competitive games could be the next kind of like bigger like way of thinking. Because right now, like we get a lot of games that are focused on having
No.
death as a mechanic for a single player experience. But I don't know.
There are
Never
some
know.
other games that have completely changed, like and the once you alter the death mechanics, like I don't know if Apex was the first battle royale to implement respawning, bringing your teammates back into the game, but it's definitely the kind of thing that you just now have to have in your battle royale because it just
Oh yeah,
finally
like
makes it so that the moment you die, if you die in a first couple of seconds, you can still come back.
right. And
Yeah,
there's
I
like the
mean
risk
that's
reward
yeah.
too
I mean,
to
it was
getting the
definitely the
card.
first mainstream one for sure.
I think so,
Mainstream
yeah.
battle royale because I
I'm pretty sure
remember as soon as
Fortnite copied it.
yeah, as soon as Apex came out and they had that, and they had the ping system. Like 2 weeks later, Fortnite had all that, and the Call of Duty games after had that. Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. Just the way, especially in multiplayer games, the way that you can use death as an advantage. Even with something it depends on your goals too, right? In the game, like it's something as simple as Call of Duty, where it's just like, okay, well, obviously, death doesn't mean a lot in that game. You die, you're back in half a second. But
Mhm.
if you're on a team, especially with with you're a squad of, and you're on comms and everything, and let's say there's a sniper or something, you use death as a way to find that sniper. You use death as like a way, okay, we're gonna send this dude in because we don't know where this camper is. Okay, well, he's here. Like Jimmy just ran in and he's dead, and so we know he's there. But you can also, use it with knowing when the spawns change, right? Like, okay, well, this dude's here, but he can only stay here so long until our spawn location change, until both teams spawn locations change. Or even something like Apex, where like if your objective is not even just to win the game, but to get a certain number of kills, you'll down two people on a team, and then you'll be like, okay, now let them res them. Let that last
yeah.
guy res those
Yeah.
two so that they can get them back up, and you can get the kills, right? So it's just like there's different. It's interesting to use death as an advantage in those kinds of games if that's your objective. It's pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
wanted to um, tread tread back a little bit to what we were talking about the each health bars and all those kind of systems because um, Bloodborne also tried to do the same thing in order to or actually did the same thing as Doom to encourage aggression where
Yeah.
like you have the whole what was it called that system where the more you hit the opponents you can still gain back some of the health that you just lost.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
If you hit them
Like
fast enough, yeah.
if you hit them fast enough in a sequence of hits, you can get your health back that you just got hit from.
yeah, it really
And it's a bit of a timer, right? Like if you don't
Oh,
do it
Yeah.
fast enough, you can't get that health back.
yeah, it's a really big risk reward mechanic because are you gonna risk getting hit to death a little bit more or are you gonna be able to regain all the
Yeah,
health
it
back?
definitely took the whole like let's the best defense is more offense. Offense.
Yeah,
Wolverine
It-
taught me that.
uh, yeah, no, it's definitely the game where like a lot of people in the Dark Souls series use shields as a crutch to to
Right.
get through most of the game, and that was the Bloodborne was the one that it gives you a shitty you know piece of plank, and they're like, all right, that's a shield. Only pussies use a shield.
Right.
Yeah, it just mocked that whole idea of being a pacifist, and honestly, once you play more Dark Souls games, the more aggressive way of playing it's like it's more fun
Yeah.
than cowering behind a shield.
Yeah, that's why there's a bunch of them going around without clothing with a big ass sword. Invading goddamn people and keeps on killing them before they can make it to the damn boss, motherfuckers. Okay.
I know. Uh, hmm. One thing that I really like about newer platformers like Super Meat Boy or
Mm.
Celeste is the fact that you no longer have the life systems um to discourage you from trying crazy things in games like Celeste and Super Meat Boy, where you have to have like really precision platforming and where you're gonna be dying thousands of times. It would be absolutely frustrating, to have to go back
Right.
all the way to ass end of the all the level, because you died 3 times.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that being crazy. I mean, the load times for, well, I remember, like, there's that load time thing, right? Like loading, like how long it takes for you to get back into the game
Yeah.
is like, sometimes like that's the factor, right? Like it might kill the fun of dying, or because
Sure.
it makes it that much more punishing.
Well,
Or
that
what
was,
about,
I mean, that was, we were talking about Bloodborne. That was the
right,
biggest thing when
when we
Bloodborne
first
launched,
played
is
it?
that the
Yeah.
loading screens were like a minute long. They were
Mm-hmm.
literally like a minute. So like you didn't want to die specifically so you didn't have to sit through the loading screen. And
Yeah.
that was just like, yeah. And I mean, you have
And
something like Ollie Ollie, which is like this independent skateboarding game, and it's very hard, and you're gonna die a lot learning the tricks and stuff. But the loading is intentionally insanely fast. Like as soon as you die, you're back. Like in like I don't know, 0.25 of a second, something
mm,
insanely fast. So it's
Right.
just like you're all it keeps you motivated to keep trying. Whereas like even if that loading screen was 5 seconds, if you're dying like 1,000 times in like a 2 hour play session, and you're sitting through 1,000 5 second loading screens,
I
it's
don't.
just gonna be insanely. It's even that amount is gonna start bugging you, and you're not gonna want to play for very long. But because
Can you
it's
imagine?
insanely fast, it works really well.
I was gonna say, can you imagine Hotline Miami if it had a
Yeah,
30
exactly,
second load screen?
exactly.
ugh.
Like Jesus. I think I literally got the trophy for dying 1,000 times in that game.
Oh yeah, I did too.
Okay, I don't feel so bad now.
I feel like most people probably get that trophy.
I'm
I
assuming that I'm assuming that's like, of course, like that game, like there there's probably some speed runner guy that's
Oh
like, oh
sure.
yeah,
oh yeah.
no death run or something like that, but really in the end, like the game wasn't meant to be played that way anyways.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can
Yeah.
bet your ass there's some guy out there who beat the whole
But,
game using
yeah,
his ass, playing the bonga with his ass while
exactly.
blindfolded.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll pay to see that. That'd be fun. Just like every
Oh
chick.
man. Girls. What about
Uh,
uh Dead Space? Like all the different ways of dying was
Oh, the
just fun
death
to
screens.
watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
It wasn't necessarily a
Yeah.
mechanic, it was just
There
more
were
entertaining.
yeah, there were an absurd number of like different animations for like, and like just cutscenes of watching Isaac be dismembered in like horrible ways by like these monsters, and you actually like sometimes intentionally die just to see him die in new ways. Like, it became a very sadistic cycle.
That's so
I
crazy.
can't help but thinking of
That dude
Dying
went
Light.
through too much, man. He went through
I
too
know,
much.
seriously.
Like, what a horrible life he had over the course of that trilogy, man. It's like enough. Just leave him alone already.
I mean, and the worst thing that happened to him was being in Dead Space 3.
Yeah.
True. That was worse than death.
I'd rather see my girlfriend die over and over again than play this
Yeah. Damn.
game. But I can't help thinking of games that only contextualize your death, but don't, it doesn't. It's pretty much the same as a checkpoint, like BioShock, for example. Um,
Oh yeah,
it,
where you come out of like the Vita chambers. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
right. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Infinite, where I always confused about Infinite. You always come back, from the death, but
Hmm.
is that supposed to be a new, Book in the Wit,
I'm
or was
pretty
that
sure it's a
supposed
new
to
one,
be?
right? Because it's multi-dimensional, right?
Right. Like
So
so.
you're
The,
just
I don't
traveling from
remember.
one version of
I don't
yourself.
remember the. What is the like resurrection animation in that? I don't remember. Like,
I
what is it?
I don't remember either.
I think the way that I remember was um what's her face? Elizabeth
Elizabeth?
just opening up a portal and bringing you out of it.
Oh,
Like
I get.
I
Yeah, I guess it must be that then.
yeah.
Huh?
Like I always kind of picture it as, you know how there's that one cutscene. It's not really a cutscene. It's a moment in the game where you meet the twins, the Lucette
The
twins.
Lutece twins. Yeah.
Yeah, the Lutece, and they make you flip a coin, and it just it's always heads, and it's been a heads
Right.
121 times or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I always imagined it as being like every time you died, that was a new DeWitt that just didn't make it all the way to the end.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense with the story and especially with the DLC of how like Elizabeth is going through to like literally going through as many dimensions as she can trying to like kill Comstock before either kill Comstock or kill or like stop Booker DeWitt from becoming Comstock. Yeah.
And a woman's corn, huh? I also was thinking of games like the Prince of Persia, where
Oh
you
yeah.
died, yeah, and you just could reverse time before the time before
Right,
you
and
died.
that was almost like it's almost having the control of having the one up, like having the extra life,
Yeah,
and you're in control of when you use it,
yeah,
and you had to fill up more of the sand.
it stands. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even that gave you a little bit of a limit to using that. Like you would only have so many times to use it before you actually ran out of it. And when you actually died, like because you're technically being told this story, it's always the kind of thing where like the narrator goes like, oh wait, no, that's not what really happened.
Oh yeah,
I
Right.
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
actually
Yeah,
die in a bunch of falling into a bunch of spikes.
like the narrator
Yeah.
type of thing. It's like, oh no, that didn't happen. Wait a minute. He's like, I'm forgetting the story.
Unreliable narrator.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I died. The end.
And then I actually died.
Actually, there is that like really interesting thing that Amy Hennig said about Uncharted with like Nathan Drake and like how because like the whole thing about Nathan Drake is that like he's always people tell him he's lucky all the time like because he gets out of these insane like set pieces and stuff
Yeah.
and he's always like no I'm not like I'm getting beat up all the time I'm getting like shot and all these things and like if you played Uncharted like basically when you're like as you're getting like if you're behind cover and someone's shooting you like the screen starts going red but it also starts going gray and it basically gets more and more red until he falls over and he dies and basically Amy Hennig explained that as it being that is not actually like every time you're being shot and it goes more red that is Nathan Drake's luck running out until like that final bullet when he actually goes down is the only actual bullet that hits him and that's when he dies which I always thought that was
That's a
pretty
clever
interesting
way of
yeah
explaining it. Yeah.
yeah
It's not actually a life bar. It's
right
just
so that like when you take out the enemy and you wait for a second for the blood to like rescind and for your screen to get its color back that's your luck coming back like you were lucky enough to survive that encounter and continue
So, if we could contextualize every single death to be something like that, you can imagine that every single game, like, Mario games, like, that have a life system, they all work like a death loop, where like the thing that just happened, didn't actually happen, or, it
right
happened, but you just go back in time. Can you imagine, how
right
traumatized Mario would be if he could remember every time he's died?
Or,
It's like,
or he remembers all the times that he dropped Yoshi off the goddamn pit. How many
Mamma
fucking
mia.
Yoshis are there dead inside that pit?
Yeah, I mean, then it becomes a Westworld situation, right? Where like you remember every loop and every way you've
Oh,
ever
no.
died.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
Disturbing.
That's so funny. You just see a pit of. If you were able to see into the pits
Pit of
where you just
Marios.
drop the pod off. Yeah, it's just a whole pile of Yoshis. Oh god.
God, that's funny.
Dude, that reminds me of the one time we were playing Red Dead Online, and a fucking cougar attacks me, and we're unable to kill him. And I come back right away, and it's like, oh, there's my dead body. That's
Yeah, that's always fun online. Where it's like, that's me.
No, my body's here. What do you know?
oh god.
What if a game made that into a mechanic where like you die, but if you're able to get back to your like body before it despawns, you can loot the body and get more shit out of it. Like that's a way of grinding.
That's actually a way of grinding. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I think that sounds like something. Honestly, I could.
Yeah. I
that
feel like
sounds
that
there's
probably
some-
has been something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that. Yeah, it does. That does feel like something that actually had happened already. I don't know where, but
Yeah,
I bet you there is one.
probably.
It's freaking weird, dude.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to go about it. Just looting yourself. What the hell? It turns out that you're just coming. Whenever you die, yourself from another dimension shows up and loots you to continue your journey.
I'm not dead yet.
It's like, shut up.
Bah. Oh, thanks for the tip.
That sounds some fucked up shit like Looper or something.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking that. Yeah.
You're so selfish that you're willing to like kill yourself.
Yeah, I always liked it in that movie how he like references like how how like unforward thinking the loopers are. How he's like, yeah, we don't like it's pretty ridiculous how like we just like will kill ourselves from the future, like knowing that it's us, but like we do it just because it will get the money to live long enough to be sent back and killed by ourselves. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that the older Bruce Willis is like very aware of the stupidity
right.
of the ridiculousness.
That amazing effect where that guy, where they
Gloves?
find his younger guy, yeah, and they start, hacking at him, and all the, damage
yeah,
that they did
it's
to him in the
disturbing.
past starts. Yeah,
Oh,
like his
yeah,
nose
yeah.
comes off, and like, it's, starts losing limbs and stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
oh.
that's I had this conversation about how remember we had the conversation about like how movies and games are to deal with time and stuff. Like
Mhm.
even though I like Back to the Future, I don't agree with the way they do it. And
No,
same
I
thing
was
with
saying
Looper.
that. I was saying that
Yeah.
on the episode for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely
Yeah.
Back to the Future in particular contradicts itself
Right.
multiple times.
Yeah, love the movie, but then like
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
they're excellent. But yeah, I remember watching that
Yeah.
trilogy after not having watched it for years, like right before we did that episode, and I was like, these are great, but man, like there's a lot of inconsistency here
yeah,
in terms of the way time travel works.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing, and then I feel like the same thing with Looper too, right? So for me, it's like I don't agree that like it works in that way, but I do enjoy the story. Like, it's not taking that away from them. But
Right.
Yeah.
But that's like Prince of Persia's like time and mechanic of death. That this is really cool. I don't think the second one was that great, right? They basically did the same thing, right?
Yeah, they kept doing the same thing until like the third one, and then they altered it a little bit for the Xbox 360 PS3 era, where they had a total different type of design for the Prince of Persia. And it was just, I believe it was just titled the Prince of Persia. And in that game, you no longer died; you always just got rescued by your companion.
Oh.
Yeah, which It just you really never run out of it. So
Mm.
it honestly, it never really bothered me um so much, but it also did um it also takes something away, you know, from
Yeah.
Mm.
from
From
that.
the
It
experience,
makes you
right?
yeah, exactly. It makes it less valuable. That that you failed a certain state because it doesn't feel like you can fail. And it just makes you feel like you can just keep, you know, you just go
There's
through
no
the motions.
consequence. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the impact of what you
You're
do
not
is
actually overcoming anything. It's just
right.
like, oh,
It's like, oh,
you'll
I
make
tripped
it
over
one way
something.
or another. Why even play the game?
See, just like real life, if we didn't die, we would just be going through the motions.
Well, just
I'm
being a
just,
zombie.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
What
I
if
mean, if
they
we didn't
had?
die,
What? Imagine this: a game where it your death alters the game completely in the sense that you're no longer playing the same. Maybe the character is different. Like imagine if you went from like you're okay, it's like you're a soldier or something, right? And then but when you
like
die,
you
you
were
turn
playing a
into a
different.
zombie, and then
Oh,
now you have to play with completely different mechanics. Like it's
Hmm.
like a new game altogether, and then you on top of that you have different goals. What if there was like a
Huh.
game where it's essentially you're switching characters, maybe even switch environments uh, when you die? That'd be a weird way of like messing around with the idea of what like death could mean. Death could mean that you go from one place to another instead of just dying and starting over again. I mean, then at the same time too, what if you missed out on stuff that you could have done while you were still alive? So then maybe doing a no death run actually has some benefits because then you experience a game in a way where you didn't experience it before.
true.
Depending on how many times you died, of course, or imagining that you don't die and then you're just having completely different environment experiences. You progress in a different way that you didn't do previous time that you were played because you died so many times or something.
There was one game that sort of sounds like like what you just said, but in
Mm,
a very much smaller scale.
mm,
And that was a zombie game for I think it was the Wii U. It was
mm.
called Zombie U. Very imaginatively titled.
Yeah, they put it
In
on
which
PlayStation and they took away the U and it was just zombie.
Oh, what?
okay,
Really?
oh
Is
that
this?
works.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
That's a
Yeah,
real
no,
You
that
can
thing?
is
go on
that's
the
real thing. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
never heard of
god.
PS4.
that.
You can go on the PS4 store
That's
and it just says
hilarious.
zombie.
That's so funny. But yeah, the
That's
whole point was that you were a
Yeah. Very
survivor, and
inventive.
if you died, your body just died with all the loot that you had on you. So
ah.
you just became a different survivor later on, where that you
Oh.
could loot
Right.
your own body.
Oh. I see. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, they tried to
Huh.
incorporate the whole tablet for the Wii U, in which you could use it to like search the backpack and stuff, but you know that was
I
it.
see.
Yeah.
See, doesn't it suck to see like these interesting mechanics on really bad games? That sounds like it doesn't sound like that fun of a game to be honest. But
Yeah.
I like the idea. I
Yeah.
wish it was like better executed because it didn't sound like it was very well thought out.
I mean, turns out they released a zombie game in a totally dead platform.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
there is that.
I feel bad punching down on the Wii U, but also kind of deserved.
Yeah.
Ouchies. It's unfortunate.
Yeah,
What other death mechanics are out there that you can think of that was like, really interesting?
Hmm.
I don't know if there's. I think we've covered a good amount
We
of it.
covered pretty much everything, right?
I mean, I'm
How
sure
about
there's things we're missing. I can't think of anything.
do
Not
do
necessarily mechanics, but let's just say that is part of the narrative.
Ah,
Has anyone played this Capcom game called Ghost Trick?
no.
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 Huh.
So, Ghost Trick, you play as this supposed gangster who is died. Um, there are developments in the story that you find out later that I mean, people are going to spoil that, but I would just say, like, please don't because it's a very interesting game for how it develops. But
Mm.
the whole premise is that as a ghost, one of your abilities is to possess objects and influence things, and you get to keep going back in time to change certain events. There's one event where you have to prevent this little girl from getting shot by the mob, for example, and you start influencing different objects just to kind of change things or like attack any elements or like hide the elements. But it's supposed to be very comical. It's by the same team that made the Ace Attorney games or Phoenix Wright games.
Ah.
And everything plays like it's a diorama. Everybody has like a sense of character acting. Everything looks like it's uh, basically a living cartoon. And I give this game so much praise because it doesn't take long to beat. Um, and some of the puzzles will differ depending on which other ghosts you meet along the way, because your ability might be different from like the character that you play as initially has a different ability from how other people or how other creatures ghosts might influence things. So yours could just be like moving things about, but someone else's could be like freezing things in time, or someone's could just be like swapping objects. So it just has to be objects of a certain shape. And it is an action puzzle game with like, heavy story elements. And I don't necessarily agree with how the story was, but its central theme is its central theme is just, I guess, solving your own death is the best way to put it. But you're just going through all these different events and all these different events either back in time or in the present, just as it goes along, just to develop the story. And again, it's a game that's played for comedy, so you'll see a lot of cartoony characters. Like there's this guy who works in a chicken restaurant and his nose looks like a goddamn drumstick, for example. uh, there's this one detective who keeps dying, and you just like she dies all the time, and you have to prevent her from dying in a lot of stories. But it's like it's just like it. I spent like an entire night playing through the game, start to finish, and it's just it's one of those games I'm surprised doesn't have a lot of remasters, because I think the only platform it's been remastered on was iOS for the Apple Play, like with Apple Play Store, I guess, and it hasn't been like I think it's actually been taken off. 'Cause, otherwise, you just normally play it on Nintendo DS. But yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily something that has unique fail states, because if you die or fail a mission, you just have to do it all over again. But it's just how it uses death as part of its narrative to forward the story.
That sounds pretty cool.
Speaking
really
of games,
interesting.
speaking of games that also use games as a big part of the narrative, is that indie game Undertale.
I
Not
keep
so
hearing
much.
about the game, haven't played it, but yeah,
I
a lot of interest
definitely.
being-
It's if you appreciate I guess old school RPGs, a la Earthbound, that the um games that it definitely does a great I guess commentary on those kind of games. It does its own twist on all the mechanics, and it takes into account whether you kill everybody in the game, or kill a couple people in the game, or you do a whole pacifist run. It completely it alters some things in the story.
I see.
Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's a good game. It's one that if you're into those kind of I was gonna say strategy games, turn-based RPGs, you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard about stuff like there's even like some fans have like, no, you have to play it this way because you have to get the whole story
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. Some like people are just trying to they're gatekeeping the game.
Yeah. I think if anything,
Let me play the way I want to play.
yeah, no, pretty much just play it the way you want to play it. I think that a lot of people would discourage you to play it from playing it, at a pacifist run to begin with. But other than that, I mean, just play it however you want to.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a very endearing game. Like I really, it really endeared me a lot. Like I'll definitely recommend it.
Nice. Well, okay. Is there the? I think that's about it, right? Yeah. Like
Yeah. Pretty much, that's the death of our podcast.
the death of the podcast
episode today. Yeah.
This is a
For
good way to
today,
end it.
we'll resurrect next week.
All right. Cool. Thanks for listening, and see y'all next time. Bye bye.